They all say that the key to your success is your mind. But do you really hold the key to your mind? Welcome to the Key to Your Mind show. Imagine for a second how it would feel to be in complete control of your finances, health, and relationships. And help individuals, teams, and organizations achieve that level of success easier and faster. Every week you'll gain access to magic keys to your mind, making all the difference in your personal and professional life. Now here are your hosts, top international NLP master trainers, Naomi and Rami Berkut.
You know how your clients come to you and say something like,
I don't know why, but I didn't do it because my boss told me this thing, and I guess I have this accumulated anger that I couldn't focus on anything else.
you see, when she says, I have this anger or fear. So first of all, Naomi, if you insist you have it, let's say anger or fear, limiting belief, like if you have a candy, you can throw it to the garbage, right?
Good point.
So if it's not tangible, it seems harder or impossible to throw it to the garbage, isn't it?
That's true. So welcome to the Key to Your Mind show.
Yes, key to your mind.
Exactly. And I'm Naomi Berkut.
And I'm Rami Berkut. And today we're going to find out how to deal with negative emotions and mental states that create resistance and sabotage peak performance.
Yes. So if you think about it, anger sounds like so-called noun, right? What is the problem though with attitude of holding or having them as a noun? Having them as a noun rather than verbs, is that when your client talk like that, it creates self-resistance. And they will show resistance to you, right? And self-sabotage their success. And then you don't get the results and the success that you want, right? If your client doesn't, right? How can you get the results? Because our success is measured by the success of our clients.
Absolutely. And here is the good thing. Hear me out, okay? To the rescue, our NLP tells us that this kind of non-tangible so-called nouns are actually verbs frozen in time, and they are called nominalizations. And when we turn them into a process or recover the hidden verbs behind them, we get to understand that it is up to us to do them rather than to have them. We take back control and not feel like a victim.
Absolutely. So, and of course, the deeper unwarranted, we don't talk here about the deeper unwarranted negative emotions that are stacked in our subconscious mind. They are stored in Gestalt. The first time you felt anger, then every time you felt anger, it's stored like a pattern, right? Like in a Gestalt. The ones that makes us sometimes respond, impulsively and so triggered, right? We don't talk about that. That's like, as a responsible person, you probably want to get rid of them with the amazing breakthrough process that NLP techniques does and timeline therapy, right? And those you want to make sure you performed, of course, safely by expert practitioner, right? So, and of course, we cannot do that in this show, right? This deeper process, but I think the awareness that you would get will help you already release a lot.
Absolutely. So what words are we talking about? And let's understand how we can help ourselves and our clients with them. Words like, I have limiting beliefs, I have anger, I have fear, I have insecurity. And let's illustrate how we can recover the hidden verbs and bring back control on them.
Right? Because we want control on them, not that they will control us, right? When we take control, we are also ready to take the help, right? And release them because we understand that just as we learn in doing them, just like we learn how to do it, we can learn undoing them. We can make a responsible decision to do a different response or a process or use a different strategy.
Because as Stephen Covey said, we are a product of our decisions. So we better make good decisions, don't we?
Absolutely. It always starts with your decision.
So here are, some tools that most people don't deeply think about them on their own.
So if you think about it, right, think of it for a moment. The word belief is a hidden verb. As what we said before is known in NLP as nominalization. Okay, so nominalization is a verb that was turned into a noun, as Rabbi said before. A thought or talking about it as if it's a thing or an object, like the candy. You're just like, okay, just throw it, right?
Yeah, think about it. If we don't have beliefs, instead, we do a process of believing.
Right, so it's not like you have a belief, it's you doing a process of believing.
We cannot hold a belief in our hands, right? You cannot buy one at the shopping mall. So consciously, you are not aware that you are actually doing a process of believing. And the good news is that you can undo it.
You can just undo it.
This process is done with the unconscious competence.
So like the process that like when you call it like a belief, right? And you're doing the process of believing, you do it automatic. And that's what I mean by unconscious competence.
So for example, when my client says, I have a trauma or that I have a phobia, for example, that feels stuck. But the good news is that she learned to do the phobia or trauma, and she can unlearn it too. So why are we limiting ourselves, losing control, saying that we have a fear or anger or a limiting belief?
Exactly, because think about it, language, right, and thought are so powerful, aren't they, right? And incorrect use of a language leads to incorrect and insane thinking and action. So it's so important to really understand the words you're using to create your ongoing reality. And we're going to illustrate, right, how we actually do not have a fear, for example, but actually are doing the fearing, right? We have a strategy of doing the fearing, right? If you think about it metaphorically, right, when someone talks with you about, let's say, I don't know, lice, and you start each, right? It's not like you have the lice, right? You're doing a process of licensing, right? Just because someone else talked about it.
So you don't have beliefs. You do believing. So Naomi, how do we solve it? How do we denominize so it stops limiting you or making you feel stuck or sabotaging you?
Right, so like again, if you think about it, right, the word anger is a normalization, right? It's normalization.
As we mentioned, normalization are verbs or doing words that have been turned into noun or things. But you can't buy anger in a shop. You can't put it into a wheelbarrow or place it on a table.
That's true. So anger is the process of doing angering, right? So like if a client say I have an anger, like how does it do this the process of angering, right? So it's important and powerful distinction, and one that NLP really provides profound insight into, right?
Yes.
When you begin to realize, right, that you don't have anger, but instead when you are experiencing anger, you are actually doing a process of unconsciously angering yourself. Then you can do, when you realize that, right, then you can do the changing and modifying, right? You can start by choosing to change how you are responding, right? So you can take the information about what you are angering yourself about, pause, observe, then decide whether angering is appropriate and the most generative and compassionate response to the current situation. And if not, then you can choose to change your behavior and pick a more useful way of emoting. And I purposely say emoting and not emotion, emoting, right?
No, that's fascinating and powerful distinction, isn't it?
That's right.
So now next, you want to consider perhaps in what way angering might unconsciously serves in you. Think about it. You might have a hidden secondary gain. In what way the doing of angering is unconsciously believes that it is serving you.
Yes, I like what you just said, like secondary gain behind it, right? Like it must be something, right? So thinking about, for example, what the doing of anger, let's say, unconsciously serves you, right? Like our client Mark, right? It was amazing, who said that when he gets angry, for him it's not doesn't make him stuck. For him, when he gets angry, he's like doing things, like all of a sudden he has this movement, right? Like it's a boost of energy, right? But then what happened? He gets angry that he was angry, right? So now that you are figuring, right, what doing the angering serves in you, right? What it serves in you, then the next step you can do is kind of like a cost-benefit assessment, right? What is more, the cost or benefit of doing the angering? Because let's say the benefit is that it moves him, right? Like it moves Mark, right? And then based on your cost-benefit assessment, you have 2 or 3 options on what to do about it, right? If my benefit of doing it is bigger than the cost, right? So let me, right? Like if I have a cost of doing angering and benefit. So if the secondary gain or benefit, for example, is move, it makes him move, okay? It's like create this energy in his life, okay? Let's say that. But then the cost is in his health. He needs to decide what is bigger, right? Do I want to hold into that or I want to change the process, right? So is the cost bigger or the benefit is bigger? That's something for you to think about it, right?
Interesting.
Right, so if the cost bigger, worse than the benefit, because you figure that the cost of doing it, it's too costly and unhealthy for you. And we know anger can be very unhealthy. And therefore, you're choosing to change it. You're modifying your strategy or choosing another way or strategy. Like in the case of Mark, he chose another strategy to motivate him or move him, right? Like instead of be feeding by anger, he can feed by something else to still have the movement.
Here's the thing. You see, the cost of doing anger or angering, for example, affects your sympathetic system. See, angering is a sympathetic dominant emotion. Our bodies have what is called an autonomic nervous system, one that typically operates out of conscious awareness. It's automatic or autonomic. And this system has 2 major arms. One is the sympathetic system, which is responsible for the fight or flight responses. For example, how we respond to stress. And the other is the counterbalancing parasympathetic system.
So it's parasympathetic that you want.
It's the relaxation system.
That you want to trigger more. Yeah.
Where the sympathetic arm is like the accelerator in a car, getting us to fight or flight from the stressor. The parasympathetic arm is like the brake in the car, bringing us back to homeostasis once the danger has passed. But it's not always useful.
Rabbi was a medic in the army, right? So like he knows all those things.
So it's not always useful, right? Or the wisest or most generative response. Often there is a more compassionate, creative, and courageous way to respond that will produce wiser outcome.
Right? So you saw like how costly it can be, right? So like you need to figure that out, right? Like make this assessment. And the first aid, like, when like you put like, how do you call it?
Aid.
Aid, like AID, but like the first aid toward overcoming angering is to begin to, of course, breathe, right? Breathe in a balanced way, right?
It turns out that for many biological and evolutionary reasons, our breathing controls our autonomic nervous system. your in-breath to out-breath ratio is able to shift you from sympathetic to parasympathetic dominance, from fight or flight into more balanced mode.
And here's the thing, some people think if I get rid of my anger, then when I need it for fight and flight, I won't have it. Trust me, you will have it. It's like what you want to get rid of this unwarranted one or the ridiculous one that like are triggered like crazy. So like, it's important to differentiate, right? And then like, of course, with the time and therapy and NLP, we do like the deeper that like stacked like crazy. But anyway, briefing, as Rami said, is a great pattern interrupt, right? It's like you interrupt the pattern, right? Like you're in anger and then you're like pattern interrupt, right? Because it can help undo angering and bring yourself back to autonomic balance, right? And you'll find that this is found more healthier for you, especially you guys, that you so want to be proactive, and this is something that's important for you rather than be reactive. And another cost of course is that negative emotions such as anger and fear close down your cognitive capacity and limit your creativity.
Right? Yeah, your research in positive psychology, on the broaden and build theory, indicates that unlike negative emotions, positive emotions like happiness and joy enhance problem-solving abilities, enhance creativity, decision-making, and memory, while negative emotions cause the opposite.
Absolutely.
Positive emotions appear to build emotional capital. They are healthy for your heart. They allow you to cope in ways that extend beyond the moments in which you are experiencing them. And unlike them, since anger and fear are part of the autonomic nervous system fight or flight response, they are signals that you need to sort things out. If you are feeling anger or fear towards something or someone, then it's time to examine yourself and your feelings to determine what is motivating that angering and fearing.
Exactly, what's motivating it, right? So it's nice to get back the control, right? When you turn the nominalization, right? The nominalization into a verb, when you denormalize it, right? When you think about it, fear, for example, is also nominalization, right? It's a hidden verb. You don't have fears. Instead, you do the process of fearing with unconscious competence automatically, right? And that is, you are doing things in your mind and body to generate the experience and feeling of fearing.
When you do things automatically with unconscious competence, often you need to go back and break them down in order to modify them. Mm-hmm. Like we don't think how we are driving because we are doing it automatically. So stop, pause, observe, and take a look at how you're generating fearing and insecurity. Mm-hmm. Are you saying things to yourself?
So think about it for a moment, really. Think about it. Take one thing, like a fear, that like, are you saying things to yourself?
Yeah. Are you repeating certain negative thoughts over and over? What sort of voice tonalities are you using? Mm-hmm. What pictures on your mental screen? What pictures are you focusing on in your mind? What are what we call in NLP? There are submodalities. How big, bright, or close are the pictures? And what I guess you'll probably find that they are very close, very bright, and far too impactful. So what you can do, you can zoom them off into the distance, dim them down. They are your pictures, so make them serve you. Change their submodalities, and in that way, change their meaningfulness.
Absolutely. It's so nice sometimes to break this like pattern and like what can I change here, and how can I get back control,
Yeah.
right? So the key is about letting go of anger and fear, and letting go of any other negative emoting. The reason I say emoting, because again, otherwise we nominalize it, like we label it, and we feel stuck, right? So holding on to or persevering over this, negative emoting will not serve you for a positive and happy life. Instead, right, as we said before, work out the purpose of the emoting. Like, is there any secondary gain? What does it try to, right? Because after all, the unconscious mind maybe try to protect me. Is only got the message that he needs to do it. And then, second outcome to either change your perception and responses, or change the situation that is generating the perception, right? And you have a choice about it.
Of course. You have a choice about how you do emote thing. You can choose more useful and generative responses to what happens in your world.
Absolutely. So let go of any unuseful, right, emotional states, and instead focus on positive ideas and feeling, right? Because after all, they will serve you better in your life and those around you magically.
You can say to yourself, I'm easily letting go of angering and fearing and embracing compassion and courage instead.
I love it. So as we said, fear is a nominalization, a hidden verb. You don't have fears. Instead, you do the process of fearing with unconscious competence automatically.
This is, you are doing things in your mind and body to generate the experience and feelings of fearing.
Yeah. And you can, as we said before, you can pattern interrupt it, right? And stop those unsupportive behaviors, right? We were talking about breathing. You can make the voice in your head sound like, instead of like, listen upsetting, right? Like, and it's already make it funny, right? And you can put some circus music with it, right? That makes it seems funny and inconsequential, right? Conceptual, doesn't it, right? So those things, right? Like it says humor, it's a pattern interrupt, right?
So what else can you do? Is when you undo something, you can replace it with doing something else. A different and better strategy, like focusing on courage and resilience instead, and getting better and better at being secure, at being able to cope with any situation. You generate patterns of unconscious competence that allow you to feel good and different in any situation.
Confident too.
You build neural networks across your head, heart, and gut brains of courage, resilience, and strength. And the cool part is that doing more something like, let's say, doing security generates more security.
Exactly, right? The more security you generate, like the more you generate. So remember, you can affirm and say to yourself, I'm stopping doing this insecurity and instead doing courage, strength, and feeling secure in myself and the world, right? So to summarize today's learning, we learned some great tips. It seems like so easy, so minor, but like it's so big, the difference it will make in your life because you take back the control, right? So notice nominalization words, right? And if they are limiting you, like labeling you, turn them back into a verb of doing them, right? Do a cost-benefit assessment, right, that I showed before, and then see how you are doing them, right? What are you doing in your mind? What are you saying to yourself? So you can know what to do in order to undoing them, right? Or to pattern interrupt them, right? With like voice, right? So they are not doing it, right? You are changing your strategy.
And number 3, replace them with doing other things instead. Instead of doing anger, decide to do compassion. And then you'll get better results.
I can't wait to read like your, what are you thinking about it and what nominalization you using and how you're going to denormalize it. We'd love to hear your experience.
Until then, see you the next time.